guy alone inside. He's got the breakaway with the touch to the right. Goal! Everything you wanted from this debut. It's Brandon By. Taking a shot with the left. Goal! Isaac Frank from 25 yards out. The equalizer. Will Kidd with the touch of the goal. It's a go-ahead goal. Minneapolis City.
This is the People's Pitch Podcast, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City Soccer Club, brought to you by Summit Brewing Company.
If you want it, here it is. Come and get it. This is the People's Pitch, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City Soccer Club. If you are in the wrong on the wrong channel, please stick around and join us for this evening. I am John, your host, and as always, is my first entry under N in my soccer Rolodex, Mr. Nate Morales. Nate, I'm sure you missed me as much as I missed you last week, but What did you do to pass the time outside of brushing up on your talking points for this week?
Not too much, man. Not too much. I got to do a little housework, rebuilding some stairs, cracked a couple beers for the first time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you had Lent off. So, I mean, you could be like the rest of us and go up like something like peas.
Yeah, I'll just give up beef jerky.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know what?
Beef jerky? No,
I could really do it. I could really do without more Funyuns in my life.
Yeah, it's a sacrifice. It's a true sacrifice, my friend.
Yeah, but hey, you do you, man.
Yep. Well, it's good to be back, man. Happy to do the show with you for another week.
All right. Well, the show we are packed to the gills with content. I can barely believe it and handle it. I'm getting real excited here about it. We have a reader question that we'll be talking through today. We have more signings that have come through, and the old pathway to pro strikes again as a City player has moved on, this time to Sweden, and we will bring you all of that hotness. Our very own Aaron Olsen has been dipping his toes in the deep end with some pros lately. And to continue our pool analogy, we'll talk about the cannonball that 55-1's Damian AC dropped in the kiddie pool of local soccer and how those waves have hit Minneapolis City. So let's make it happen, Nate.
Yeah, let's start with the mailbag. We're going to start the show with another reader question. This one comes from longtime listener, frequent caller, Bryn. Bryn writes, "It's too bad other folks don't send in questions. The podcast is great. I mean, come on, it contains the world-famous Lupien Automotive Speed Round." See, he started by buttering us up, which
right.
I like.
Well, yeah, right, of course. You can't just come in with the question right away. You got to prime the pump a little bit.
I got things to know. So his question this week is another one about the U23 team. He said it was interesting to hear the Bug Eaters owner, Jonathan Kalura, talk about having a team in both the UPSL and the NPSL, with the one in the UPSL acting as maybe their second team or their U23 kind of situation. He says he knows the U23 team of ours is playing a non-league schedule this year. He has no idea about the costs/rules/competitiveness of the UPSL, but they did recently add a Midwest conference. So, would the club consider or want the U23 team to play in the UPSL Midwest North region? If yes, why? If no, why not? He also threw in two bonus questions.
Full of questions.
What is your opinion/take on the UPSL in general? And what are the pros cons of having a non-league schedule? So I didn't want to get into it with him when Jonathan was on and add like another 20 minutes to the show by interrupting him and challenging his assumption. But I would think, and I think we've talked about this, that there are rules about rostering the same players in two different USSF sanctioned leagues. Am I right?
Yes, you're correct. You can't necessarily register a player in two leagues. So sharing players and the roster movement that we've brought into the mix with having two teams this year, it'll kind of defeat the purpose for us if we decide to do something like that. So you'd have to have two separate rosters and then just a level of paperwork that myself and Sarah would have to go through to like release a guy and add a guy. It would be just a total mess. Yeah. But it's not to say that it's something that we couldn't do in the future. This is our first year having the U23s. So the way we're doing it is kind of like the keep it simple, stupid strategy, right? So, we're not getting ourselves involved in a lot of the hard stuff. We have to see if this is a successful thing. If it's not, then we have to go back to the drawing board. And if it is successful, then we can start thinking about how we layer more onto it. I think I text with the Bavarians like 2-3 times a month about all related soccer things. One topic in particular that we'll be talking about later today.
Oh yeah, the end of Bryn's email was this suggestion, like it would be cool to play the Bavarians again. And he says, I also know there's some beef/information I don't know about when it comes to FC Minneapolis, but if anything, that would make for a good derby. and this was written a couple weeks ago, obviously, before the article that we're going to talk about came out.
Yeah, great foreshadowing there, Bryn. I talk to those guys in Milwaukee frequently, and we're trying to make things work to kind of kick back up that rivalry again. So there's always conversation around some sort of how do we get together, and something may happen soonish. But the FC Minneapolis part is something that we'll get into a little bit later. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that right away before we get into the rest of his comments that we did listen to all of your questions.
Yeah. So second part of his question was, or bonus question number 1, what is your opinion/take on the UPSL? For me, the jury is still out on what the UPSL is going to look like this year, but I would say my take on it is similar to when it was the PLA, in that it is a mix of solid, established teams with great history, like the Bavarians or the Croatians or Adria. But there's also these newer teams that are late to the game, that are just now in the UPSL, with maybe some questionable staying power. Do you agree?
I do agree. There's part of it that I do kind of disagree on, though, and that's we'll start with disagree first. So I disagree that it's a lot like the PLA. Outside of just the same teams, the league itself is completely different. It's new to the game right now. I believe they're in their second full season, or they're starting their second full season as a league. The rules around the UPSL are quite different than what they are with the NPSL, and the NPSL has been around for many years and is very established. And you can say like, well, I see a new NPSL team popping up like every 10 minutes, and I see a UPSL team popping up every 10 minutes. Yeah, we can fall in the same bucket from a league.
Yeah. So what's the difference, right? People.
Yeah.
On the surface.
Yeah, on the surface, it's different, but the connection. And the longevity from a relationship standpoint to U.S. soccer, both the full-fledged U.S. soccer badge and then the amateur arm, the USASA, that relationship is a lot thicker, and the regulations and the rules that are followed are a little bit more closely aligned with those organizations because of the fact that there's been a relationship for so long. So I'll disagree with you on the fact that it seems similar to the PLA. Right. But I'll agree with you though that there is, the Midwest division that they put together is very competitive outside of the teams that they brought in from here. I think if you look at it, you look at the MPSL North and then the Midwest Conference, the UPSL, you can't say that ourselves or Duluth or Twin Stars or VSLT, like any one of us that would move into that conference and help make it better. You have Granite City, which no one really knows much about, and is it going to be another FC Minneapolis type situation? It may not be. It probably won't be, but they haven't had a very strong track record of success in the leagues they've been in recently. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you remove those two teams out and you put like ourselves and Duluth or VSLT and Twin Stars in their place, that division gets really attractive. So I think that, the top half of it is going to be very similar to what we had when we were in the PLA. And then the bottom half is basically just an extra 3 points for the top half every time they play against them. Yeah. So that's kind of my take on it there. But I'm excited to see how that conference goes. Like the Aurora, we played Aurora, and that organization was well put together.
Yep.
And they have a good location, although it's very narrow. And the old Moose Knuckle Stadium down there in Aurora. But so I'm excited to see what comes out of it, and you better believe that when the Bavarians are in town, I'm gonna go see them play against FC Minneapolis.
Yeah, that's really exciting. That'll be really cool.
Right. So, and I early indications are that they're gonna pop over and catch our game, because I think we play on the same weekend.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, so good to have those guys in town. Too bad it's not playing against them. But like I said in my previous comment to Bryn's question, there'll be something soonish happening with us and them. We're just both busy teams, and you know how that goes.
So since our U23s are going to be playing a non-league schedule, let's also touch on the last question. What are the pros and cons in your mind of playing a non-league schedule?
Well, the pros are flexibility and rules that we don't have to necessarily follow. We are rule followers. I don't want anyone to think like we're cutting corners here, but there's no like regulations that we have to necessarily abide by. We're going to layer on to, what we. Let me take a step back. So every player on our U23 roster had to fill out the same paperwork as the players on the MPSL roster. And that is so that when we go to share players, the logistics around bringing a guy from one team to another is easy for us to do.
Everything's already taken care of.
It's already taken care of, right? So then, like removing a guy from our MPSL roster, say he gets hurt or just performance, it's just not working out, and they still want to be part of the organization, and we want to substitute them for someone on the MPSL roster. We don't have to go through like another league structure for us to do that. So those are the definite pros. But from a flexibility standpoint, we can carry whatever roster size we want. We're gonna keep it, within reason, but we also have the ability to be mindful of our NPSL dates, as to not kind of double dip for fans, because I expect that there'll be a following for the 23s to turn up to those matches.
Oh yeah.
On non-NPSL game days, and it also affords the players the chance to support the NPSL team as well, their matches. I already noted that the player movement thing is big for us, but we have that solid group of players that are ready to fill those needs, and we don't have to worry about that. And schedule's a big thing too. And obviously, from a con perspective is you don't have that league organization structure. So what I just said was a positive can also be looked at as a con, because you don't have a U23 team from Duluth. You don't have a U23 team from VSLT. You don't have one from Dakota. You don't have one from Sioux Falls. Like, we don't have that structure.
And then there's no trophy to work for either.
There's no trophy to work for either. And it really does truly become development for us, which is what we've always wanted it to be. So, but not having the structure of those guaranteed home and away games, we had to do more from a scheduling standpoint, and we had to look outside of the teams that are close to us, because they don't have a team for us to play like that, where we have to go, and we're going to Nebraska to finish the home and away with the Bug Eaters, so we get the guys to get a good trip down there and get away from the city. But we're also bringing in the full Croatian side from the UPSL, so we have the opportunity to bring in team. So they're a team that we're still finalizing that roster, or that schedule, but like they're a team that we're bringing in they're going to play us while they're in town to play against FC Minneapolis and Grand City. So we're gonna be able to have we can do that. We don't have to be locked into playing the Twin Stars 23s. Cool. You know what I mean? So there's flexibility there, but it could be a con because we don't have those guaranteed games.
Right. All right. Well, thanks to Bryn again. Always great to get good questions on the show.
Yeah, might as well just give him a job. Maybe Bryn, check out your inbox. We might have some tasks for you pretty soon. So Nate, we announced the addition of 2 more horses to the city stable this week. One player is a little bit of a throwback, and one is a bit of a mystery.
That is right, John. I was excited to hear as we talk, between shows, and you give me updates on what's going on that I can't break any of the news on. I was excited to hear that you were working on the return of a former city midfielder, the U.S. and Paraguayan youth international, Max Stiegwart.
Yes, another Max. So
last
year we subbed one Max for a new Max, and now we have Maxes.
Now we have 2 Maxes.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting how we they don't look anything. They don't look anything alike, so I'm sure you'll know who you're talking about when. But we'll have to figure out maybe some nickname scenarios. And you do know how I love a good nickname.
That's for sure. So to refresh the memory of our listeners, the Max is an MTA product, and he's a U.S. U14 and U15 player who was a member of our team in our inaugural season after finishing up his first year at Louisville. He featured in, the Summit Keg match against FC Fargo, and a couple other games, but his playing time was limited due to some obligations that he had with the Paraguay U20 squad, which is pretty sweet. Since then, he has transferred to the University of Central Florida, where he was afforded the opportunity to feature way more. And as we know, playing time is super valuable. After making this, because he only played in something like 13 games in his first 2 seasons at
Louisville,
and that was less than optimal. So after making that switch, he decided to stay in Florida last summer rather than coming back home to the cities. So down in Florida, he linked up with Weston FC. They play in the PDL, and they've got a whole developmental academy, youth squad, and all that stuff. And his PDL side had a rough go last year. I guess they finished second from the bottom, only 3 wins, 10 losses, 1 draw, maybe only 11 goals all season. So he was looking for something a little more interesting, something with a little more action, and definitely close to home. So it's going to be great to have him back. What does Max bring to the squad, John?
Well, first off, I can only imagine how the difference between a nice summer day in Minneapolis, you're on the lake, you're just relaxing with your family and friends, is so much better than hot, sticky South Florida in the summer. Oh,
just a sweltering swamp hellhole.
Yeah, just having to have Amazon Prime Now on the ready for baby powder to try to dry things up.
Just give me my Gold Bond subscription, please.
Yeah, Jesus, right? So outside of that, Max is a fantastic player. He's a great guy, and he's a player that we really can use all over our central midfield. And we could have used that last year, to be honest, because we weren't necessarily too deep there. But traditionally, he deploys as a number 6 in the past, but has the ability to play an 8 or a 10 as well, at the same level that he does in the 6. He has a constant motor, plays really well box to box from a center midfield standpoint. Has, his pedigree speaks to the fact that he's got very good technical skill and a next level passing ability. I actually spoke to him today and kind of asked him the $1 million question of why come back? And he simply said it was to be able to come back and play again where he grew up as a kid. And it's special for him to do that. And he really did miss it last year after kind of the difficult summer playing on, a non-successful side where, he had no real fan base to play for, and there was little support for the community, which is odd because there's a huge youth organization that is connected to Weston. So it seems weird, that was a thing, but I get it. That if there's no draw, it's kind of tough. So for that said, he'll be substituting, what comes with the PDL. In some cases, they don't do the best job in the PDL of bringing people through the turnstiles. They focus more on just getting the team together, and they usually have more money and they're able to house players and whatnot. And so their focus isn't on let's try to make this a thing, and more about this is just a stop for some soccer mercenaries to make it to the next level, because it is pro development. So with that, he basically substitutes a few extra looks by more professional sets of eyes for coming back home and playing in front of actual fans, and what he feels is maybe, and I would feel, is more of a meaningful way to play soccer.
Yeah.
And if we've proven already, in the most recent past here, the NPSL in Minneapolis City can be a place for players to be seen and make a jump to that higher level. So him coming back isn't I'm taking a step down. It's more of I'm checking off more boxes of what I want. Yeah. And we can still provide him with what he's looking for, as I assure you is an opportunity to play at a higher level after he's done at school.
And he's already proven growing up that doesn't have a problem getting noticed by the right people.
Right.
3 stints on 2 different international squads is not too shabby by the time you're 21.
Right. Right. Exactly. Well, now he can officially drink Summit. So
there we go.
yeah, he's like he had to wait till he turned 21 to come back.
Yep, that makes sense. So Max wasn't the only signing that we announced this week. City also signed the enigmatic Siku Chroma. Who is this tricky midfielder? What is up with this alias I've heard about? And why might he be the team's secret weapon, John?
No one really knows what's up with the nickname, but anytime you get a player that can go by one name, that's pretty cool. So let's just call him City's version of Sting.
Okay.
So he was born in the UK, and he comes to us via our first open tryout. So he's another one of those players that we picked up through our open tryout process. He's a pacey attacking player with a bag of tricks that he can deploy off of the wing, but also as an all-out striker if needed. Extremely high work rate. Really is one of those guys who he shows up and he works hard all the time. His background is a bit of a mystery, like you mentioned. Is he's new to the city, he's kind of coming into town for school off of a transfer. But he moved here after growing up in the UK, where he spent time on the books with a former Premier League title holder in the Leicester City Fox Youth system. So he was in a good academy there. And then as he grew up, he featured with a few other lower level teams in Corbytown FC and Aylesbury United FC. He's already been a great addition to the club. Like I mentioned, he puts in real quality work in the trainings that we've had for the preseason so far, and he also featured for the Stagman 77 side that went down to participate in Kansas City in the Midwest Regionals of the USASA tournament this past weekend. So he's already a club guy. He's all in already. So
I love that you say like, "Oh, his background is a bit of a mystery." Like, you guys don't ask him about what's up with him.
No way, man.
Nobody talks to him. They just make sure like, let Siku be Siku.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Let the bird fly, right?
Don't mess with the magic, man. Don't ask too many questions. You'll break the spell.
Yeah. Why complicate things?
Yep.
Yes, literally, we haven't really asked him about it. I mean, I will at some point, but
like
at this point, I don't really care.
No.
As long as you can play good soccer, you can call yourself whatever you want, and just show up and play good soccer.
Fair enough, man.
So to continue with transfer news that we mentioned, we have talked in the recent path, Nate, that City is a proven pathway to professional soccer, and it has been legitimized. And the transfer we signed off on this past week is just more evidence of that. You might remember we talked a few weeks ago that Miles Stockman-Willis traveled to Sweden with the group out of Chicago in the Bridges Academy that has also featured former Open Cup Crow Abai Habat. So he linked up with that group and went on an extended kind of group trial process in Sweden. And we know Miles can play ball, but we also know that he's one to put the work in. And that has done him well. And the trip paid off as Miles signed with Vrigstad IF of Sweden's 4th division this past week.
Yeah, man, that is super exciting. As soon as I heard the news, cool. I did some research because I want to know, we got to know as much about Vrigstad as we can. And I don't know Swedish. So that was a problem to look on the internet on Swedish websites, but Google translates it really well. So I was
going to say, yeah, you might not know the language, but you can click a button though, right?
I think that I'm right here. So Vrigstad plays in what is the Smålands Football Association, which is at basically Sweden's 6th level. And from what I can tell,
it's basically 4th division soccer though. It's weird how they're like, once you get to past the 3rd division,
it's all 4th division.
It gets a little cloudy there, and then it's like, then they say like this is a 6th division team. So it's weird. But if you're thinking about it solely as a ladder or pyramid structure, it falls in the 4 category.
Yeah. So from what I can tell, Sweden soccer is first organized by local district, like as local of an area as possible, and then those just get bigger and bigger. So Smålands is a province in Sweden, kind of in south central Sweden, and that is one of the districts that is
south central.
Yeah, south central Sweden, the most dangerous part of Sweden.
Yeah, it's real rough around south central Sweden, man. Look out, Miles.
So there's a number of divisions within each district. So Vrigstad currently plays at the highest level of that Smålands Association. And if they win their league, that means they move up to Division 3, which is a more broadly regional league broken down into like 3 regions, Norrland, Svealand, and Götaland, each with its own conferences, which is like North, Mid, and South Norrland, East, South, and West Svealand, 6 different regions of Götaland. So those all, in their own way, feed up and up to broader and more broader geographic areas until you hit the Superettan and the Allsvenskan, which is Sweden's second and, of course, top league, which seems like a pretty good model for Pro Rel, doesn't it, John?
Yeah, it does.
It makes so much sense that, like, you start small, start in the region that you can compete in, start in the region that you can travel in, and as you get more and more successful, ideally you get more money, you get bigger, and you can travel farther and farther afield until you've hit it big.
Yes, makes total sense. Maybe there's some people listening to this that can help translate that into soccer English.
Yeah.
For the United States Soccer Federation. But before I even dive in, you talked about how your Swedish isn't good, but you really fucking nailed it, man. I think you did a really good job. So definitely pat yourself on the back.
All right. Thanks.
Go to bed with a gold sticker on your lapel for that one.
My grandpa would be proud.
Right. So, yes, we finalized things earlier this week with Miles, and he's set to actually feature in their first team match on this Saturday. So he's already proven he belongs with them signing him to a nice little contract there. If you want to keep tabs on him, you can head over to the Vrigstad IF website, as I don't think that they'll be playing on FS1 at all this season. So
No.
Yeah, and there's no indicator that you're going to get any shaky iPhone footage of games either, because I don't think that they do record that and televise it. So no live streams, but there may be a chance that some listener, maybe Bryn, this can be your task, that one of our listeners can find some footage of Miles balling out there in Sweden. But I think, if we kind of put a bow on this, it's a fantastic first step for him over there, as he's well primed for putting in some solid performances to catch an eye of other teams, as other teams do, higher up on the ladder do keep tabs on the lower small lands teams that do participate in the Swedish Soccer Association. So there is an opportunity for him to move up the ladder with good performance for the future in the Swedish Football Association. So much luck to Miles. I'm sure there's a lot of folks that are really proud of you at home, but also within city headquarters. And we're happy that we could provide you with what you needed while you were in town. And you go make us proud, man.
Yeah. Hey, so if you want to follow Miles and what he's kind of up to over there in Sweden, I highly recommend you follow him on Instagram. He is ME_LAYZ Malaise. I think there's a lot of good stuff on there. He's got it like one foot in the fashion world. He does a little bit of art. He's always talking soccer. He's showing off all the delicious food he's eating over there. It's definitely a cool snapshot into his life as he's getting settled into this team. And I think if you had followed him, you would have seen on one of his stories on Instagram a week or so ago, he posted a picture with the Vrigstad home kit showing off. So you might have kind of known ahead of time like we did.
Yeah, inside baseball.
So yeah, follow all your city players, because you never know.
You never know where they're going.
Find out.
Right, exactly. You never know that you're going to find out about Swedish soccer.
Mm-hmm.
So Miles is not the only player that's been rubbing elbows with professional soccer players. A little closer to home, our very own Aaron Olsen, or AO as he goes by, has been training with Minnesota United.
So this, when you told me this, I thought, like, this is crazy. How did this happen, and why? Not like, you know what I mean? Like, wow, how is this? How is it that, like, Aaron Olsen gets picked out of everyone to go and train with Minnesota United?
Sure. So it's no secret that over the past 2 seasons, we've actively tried to align ourselves with our cousins across town and trying to, like, navigate what the best way to do that is. And we've kept in constant communication with them And outside of a few closed door matches over the past years, haven't really done much more than that. And well, this is a new season and we have a new point of contact over there. And I've actively been working with them to set up additional matches for this year to fill their needs, because as we know, they don't have a full reserve side. And even when they do get that full reserve side, I do fully anticipate that there'll still be a connection there at some point, which is great for the two organizations. But without having that full reserve side, which is what they haven't had in the past 2 seasons, they do need to get those valuable 11-a-side matches in. So we were selected as a group that could come in well organized and could help them rather than hinder them with what they need to do. So that's kind of where we started. Well, the phone rang, a week ago, and due to injury at the right back position, they simply just said, like, do you have any players that you feel confident allowing us to borrow them and bring them into training to help us to fill out some needs because of the injuries? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. What are you looking for? So they kind of told us what they were looking for, and we offered up both AO and Charlie Adams as 2 options at the right back position. And with each of them kind of both having similarities, but obviously offering different things. We know AO is more your traditional right defender, does look to get forward, where Charlie's more of the well-rounded, soccer player who is not traditionally a defender, but does well back there, but is more of an attacker. So kind of presented them with the 2 options, and they chose AO. Word was his performance was really well, and an indication right now is that he will be back with them if they have another need like that in the future, if they need assistance. So he performed well, for himself, and then also for us as an organization to say, like, hey, if you have a need, we have guys, and it doesn't have to just be the right back. If something else pops up, we'd be happy to send a guy there for a day or 2 for whatever you need. So awesome stuff there.
That's really exciting.
So another instance, Nate, of how our club provides opportunities outside of our walls for players, and we're really happy for them whether it be a Miles situation where he's going to Sweden, or this situation where AO and Charlie were offered up to be selected for training with Minnesota United. So it's kind of a pat on the back and a positive reflection of our organization and the efforts that we have, but also the quality type of player and human being that we align ourselves with on our rosters. So yeah, really happy for him. I know he was super pumped about it. Traditionally, AO is usually on AO time and like 5 to 10 minutes late to everything. But I was told he was early for this one.
How could you not be? How would you not be like, I'm driving the route the day before just to make sure?
Right? Yeah. It's like when your wife's pregnant and you're like, okay, I have 3 options to the hospital. The bag's packed. But no, we always joke with him that he's on AO time. But I did say, like, so did you keep the training gear? And he's like, oh no, I gave it back. And I was like, dude, the first rule is you got to keep the training gear. And he's like, yeah, maybe next time. And then I said, well, did you wear any city gear? And he's like, yeah, I had a pair of shorts on when I got there. I was like, next time you got to go in full crow.
Regalia.
You got to go full crow, man.
Yep.
You got to let these guys know where you shit and eat.
So if I can line the timeline up, this must have been like when Jerry was hurt, and I think Mears picked up that knock in either the game on the 17th or the 31st.
Yep.
And went off, and that's pretty much your right backs right there. They had Brunch, the man bun that came in a little bit, but there really is no one else at the,
right.
Who's that new guy? Nanthi, or what's his name?
Yeah, the rookie that they drafted. So he was playing with the first team. So AO was lining up with the second unit. So when they did go full 11s, he slotted in on the right side, next to Coleman and behind Ibarra. So he was around some good players.
Sick. And against Nicholson, right?
Yeah, and against Nicholson. So like beforehand, I was like, I don't need to tell AO how to play soccer, but I was like. As a right defender, the least you can have the ball on your foot, probably the better. And he's like, that's exactly what I did, man. Just got it and gave it to other people. So
that's fair.
So yeah, so totally fair. But no, I mean, he did well, and it's awesome for him. And like it's a great opportunity for him, and we were happy that he had the chance.
Just another example of how great a good relationship can be with Minnesota United. For a team like us, that's really cool.
Yep.
So for our final segment, I want to talk briefly about the now famous 55-1 article published this week about FC Minneapolis and their ill-fated, probably fake, friendly against Uganda.
Do you really think this is going to be brief?
No. No.
Yeah.
So the reporting by Damien AC, aka the NPSL Northerner, was kind of harsh, and it managed to throw shade at a number of local clubs and organizations throughout the article. But ultimately, it was very well written and really well researched, and it pulled from a number of sources from FC Minneapolis' past, including the current owner of Duluth FC, Tim Sass, the old owner of FC Fargo, and current social media manager of Granite City, Tim Singleton, all these other people from around that have been around soccer in Minnesota for a while were able to give their perspective on this. Mm-hmm. And it painted a pretty bizarre picture of how FC Minneapolis operates. It's basically a local freelance squad, if you're not familiar, that talks a big game but never seems to produce. We have played them once, if I remember right, maybe twice, in the lead up to the Free Summit game a couple falls ago, leading up to our Open Cup game against Oakland, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So there are a number of Twitter threads and comment sections for listeners to see the reaction. Highly recommend you read it if you haven't yet. It's long, but it's worth it. But let's just say the soccer internet is not giving FC Minneapolis the benefit of the doubt on this. The fellow UPSL squads are concerned, from Santa Fe to what was another one I saw? There's a bunch of them that are worried about how the UPSL is dealing with this. They're worried about the prospect of playing against an insolvent team, that sort of thing. The UPSL is strangely defending FC Minneapolis.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, and there's tons of non-league and grassroots teams and supporters from all over the region, all over the country, up in arms over this pattern of deception and how strange this behavior has been. So what kind of impact are you seeing, John? Really what I want to get to with this is not to rehash the article. I think people should go read it for themselves and draw your own conclusions. But what kind of impact are you seeing from your convos with local players, local clubs and academies when it comes to this article?
Man, dude, way to hand me the loaded weapon.
Yeah, well, this is where you shine. This is why your inside information is useful.
Dude, just spin the clip and pull the trigger, right? Jesus.
Diddy Mao, John.
So before I dive in, and I mean, where do I start? But before I dive in, I think two quick things. One is, not only has it been across the country, like the teams that are greatly impacted immediately with all of this would be the teams in the Midwest region that they're playing against. Yeah. And those folks have started to contact us and be like, what's going on? Is this real? Like, this has to be fake kind of thing. And then the other thing is the fact that I do feel it's weird that the league is taking a strange stance on it. And it's almost like a puffing of the chest, like, don't talk bad about us. But it's like, we're not reading that they're talking bad about you as a league. I mean, a little bit of like, how do you let a team like this in with a proven track record? But it's like, man, yeah, you kind of hitched your wagon to a squeaky wheel here. Mm-hmm. So you kind of got to, take it with a grain of salt and look at fact. But also read the article, because I'll just leave it at this. It also talks about like the inclusion of a failed kickboxing promoter in Africa.
Oh, so the story is so wild.
It's so wild.
The way that things are apparently done. I mean, it's just the people that he had used to try to, or that he says he used to organize this friendly, and that he's hanging his hat on, are, failed hucksters at best. It's crazy.
yeah, it's like entertainment promoters, and they like got in a fight over a kickboxing match that was scheduled over another one, and it's like, what the fuck?
And that like someone was like, her reputation is of being literally cursed.
Yeah. I had to go back and reread that again so many times because I was like, like you joke about anything. You're like, it's so funny. You can't even write it.
Yeah,
like you can't even make it up. You can't put it on paper.
Saying they were unlucky. Like, oh, she's an unlucky woman. No, that woman has been cursed.
Right. So like when I say like you can't write something like that, it literally was written. So anyways, where besides that fact, where do I really start? I mean, I have in one way or another been connected with FC Minneapolis since the article has been written and since it's been released. If you've not read it, like you mentioned, please do. It's like you said, it's long. It's like 7,000 words, I believe. And actually, like as I was reading it, I was hoping there was more. It was like another claim, and it's like, wow, this can't be real. And then another one, like, wow, it's even better. And then the next thing, it just kept. The layers of this onion were just being peeled back. I was like, I hope there's another onion.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to it, Nate, I really could give 5 rips about their founder, Ian Cindy, what he does or does not do with his organization. I really don't give a shit. But put aside the fact that he is likely the most toxic person in Minnesota soccer right now. To answer your initial question, I talked about how some teams reached out. Players have reached out to me that are on their team, or our players have reached out. Like, what is this real? Fans have reached out, coaches. I mean, you name it. The press has reached out and asked questions about it, and trying to get reaction and comment from us. And it comes to the conclusion, this really can't be a thing, right? Like, it's like this has to all be a fabrication that 55-1 made up, and it's not, because out of respect for those guys, they have always done their work, and they work really hard, and I don't think they even get paid. I think maybe there's a little bit of ad revenue
money in it or something.
Yeah, some ad revenue money there, but like all of the guys, Damian AC and Kyle Eliason and people I'm not mentioning, all do really great work. And when I'm reading the threads of people saying like, oh, well, this seems like, half reported and one-sided. No, it literally was 360 degrees reviewed and cited and sourced, and people were contacted, and including the coming from the horse's mouth. I mean, that half the story was just Ian Cindy trying to backpedal and give somewhat of legitimacy to what happened when it clearly wasn't legitimate. So I want to definitely say that before we talk a little bit more into reactions to it, that 55-1 did a fantastic job. And for detractors out there, there's no detractors in Minnesota, and that should tell you something, that it's a trusted source.
Not only that, it's not, but there's also, if you've been even around local soccer for a couple years, it's not a surprise. Like, that FC Minneapolis is not the most, put together organization. Like, some of the stuff that they'll claim, some of the stuff they say is just like there's a lot of puffery there. So you got to take usually what they post with a grain of salt. Anyway, not that the people calling you and asking if anything's true and what do you know about it. Like, really, we don't know. We don't know if any of that is true. Like, we don't. You talk to the players. You talk to the kids that had to be in that van wearing their suit for 12 hours, according to the article. You talk to the. You know what I mean? You talk to the players that lose out on opportunities and stuff like that. Those are the guys that can comment on it, not really anyone on the outside.
Well, right, and we've talked to the folks in St. Louis and the folks in Wichita that they played against too. On those non-league, the professional non-league circuit that they were on. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of it's true. I got a real good idea whether it's true or not, but I don't know for a fact.
Right.
So, anyways, to kind of keep this going and keeping it as brief as possible, I do have a few reactions of my own. Shocker. But before I do start, I must say that none of it's new news for me. as we've been kind of tangled up in the web with FC Minneapolis since 2013, which was a year before they were created, as we came across Ian Cindy with our Stegman's arm at the time. And then it's only continued as we've created Minneapolis City. And it's actually only gotten stronger since, because of the fact that we now kind of live on the same perceived parallel as those guys from a league perspective. So, yeah, I'll just get into it. The first thing from an issue standpoint I have is when what I put lots of legitimate effort and work into is affected by someone or an organization outside of us, I push back, because we work too damn hard to keep City at the high quality that we have. I mean, we just talked about how we have, a handshake type of agreement that will work with Minnesota United in some fashion or another, and it's been successful. That's not something that's going to happen with those guys, right? Like that's just not going to be a thing. And I don't expect to sit back and allow our market share be clouded by lies and deceit, because like I said, we put in too much damn work on this because we want to and we love it, for it to be affected and for us not to do anything about it. So I take offense to all this stuff that it even happened. It mucks up the water, and there's no business in the game in Minnesota for us or VSLT or Twin Stars or any other team at any level to have to move outside of our own focus and mission to even talk about this garbage.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest, as far as that point, the biggest issue that I have is when you think about how even like it was picked up, this story of them, the friendly against Uganda was picked up by Dave McCoy of WCCO, right? And that reporting just on face level was here's a team of at or above the level of all these other minor league soccer teams or lower league soccer teams in the region. And I think that, like you said, it really that they're to lump them in with teams that work hard, like City, of course, but even Twin Stars, VSLT, is completely inaccurate.
It's an insult, really.
Yeah, right. And it feels sloppy and lazy. So I think that was a big thing that I know Dan took offense to when that story came out, and that a lot of people who knew what was going on with FC Minneapolis on a certain level took offense to, and he was just like, "What? It's all the same, isn't it?" Like, that's lazy reporting, man.
Yeah, I did. I mean, not to throw gas on the eternal flame here, but like when Damien AC was like, just dropped a line on Twitter, was like, here's the reporting I did for your story.
Yeah, basically, that was sweet.
And it's so true. And how much has WCCO or this McCoy guy said since that story came out, and now this article has been published after the fact?
Nothing. I mean, the article or the story that was on WCCO was purely for like, well, this is clearly another example of what's going on with the government affects people here in Minnesota.
Right. And little did they know that there's the little engine
worst
that could
example. The
little engine that is local soccer would just take a big steamy dump all over that puff piece.
Wow.
So anyways, that's my first thing. My second thing is, I really feel bad for the players in the situation. I mean, I really do. Some of the guys have come through our trial process, one way or the other, whether it's through Stegman's or it's through Minneapolis City, and it hasn't worked out for them to be part of what we've created. But that we follow the rules, and we always have players' best interests in mind. But there's a very, very, very fine line you have to walk with amateur players when you toss the word pro around. And they've been fast and loose with that term. And it is a fact that some players have skipped college opportunities because they were promised to be a pro soccer player. And by defining the team under a pro status, legit or not, and asking players to sign legit or not paperwork, it directly puts those college and those amateur players at risk.
Yeah.
And I know that there's been at least one instance where this has happened over there. And it pains me to hear that. And you can't take that kind of thing back once it happens. It's only a matter of time until it all unfolds, and then it's a shame because the kid's the one affected, and it's the worst type of impact under all of these layers of lies that I could see. I would have put it as my first one, but I had to get out there that you push me, I'm going to push you back harder kind of thing. But the second thing is like, I feel really bad about the players.
Yeah, this is the thing that I agree with you. I feel the worst about like the picture that they painted of what these players were told versus what they ended up going through based on some of these anonymous interviews that he had or some of these sources of players that play for them currently or in the past. Like that's just not how any professional organization should carry themselves or should treat their players. But really the thing that got me was as I'm reading the comments of the article, there's a guy that says that they had rostered players at Anoka Ramsey Community College drop off the team in preseason after being promised professional contracts with FC Minneapolis. And I mean, that also means they dropped out of school.
Yeah.
You
and
know,
that was
like,
actually that was directly from the coach.
Yeah. So just to think that he and his team were able to turn kids away from a legitimate future and a legitimate education on the back of a lie is really upsetting to me. And I think you've also kind of told me of some personal conversations you've had with other players that have experienced the same thing. And I think from when Minneapolis City played them and from what I've seen online, I'm gonna put it out there that I think a lot of these players are either first or second generation Americans whose family does not have the knowledge, the institutional knowledge, the knowledge of the local community, of local sports, of local education, to be able to help them through decisions like leaving community college for a soccer program. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where that might be where a soccer program in Ecuador or Mexico might have some legitimacy to be able to say, don't go to school, you should play for our academy. Like you said, there's hucksters and con men here that do this quite often across the country. So to think that he has rostered a number of these first and second generation immigrants and potentially robbed them of an opportunity to better their station and better their place in this country is personally upsetting to me.
Yeah, it's what you said is exactly how I feel. I mean, there's not really much more we can add on to that. It's just that it sucks and it just sullies the game along the way.
And the fact that he himself is an immigrant, it is almost worse.
Right, because it's so short-sighted and self-centered.
Mm-hmm.
That the whole thing, as you read that article, you're like, God, this is just like it's just this web of stories that have been crafted to the point of believing them
all
internally.
To fuel his own kind of personal narrative of himself and his own delusions of grandeur. It's really strange.
Yeah, totally strange. So okay, so we get to my last point. So my last thing is maybe a little bit of a surprise, but outside of the clear roots of these issues that we've talked about there that were presented, I really feel this is an issue that U.S. soccer has kind of allowed to happen. So what I mean by that is I'm sure there are plenty of shady things that go on in soccer all over the world. In fact, some of them have been very public in recent years, like look at FIFA, for example, or you look at some of the match fixing things. It happens all over the world. But then when it drops in your lap, you're like, how is this allowed to happen? And so basically, if you look at how soccer is in the United States, there is too much of an emphasis on the top half of the pyramid.
Yeah.
And it's not a knock on anyone that's wrapped up in the MLS, but we all know the issues with that league and how it's the McDonald's franchise type model, for lack of a better way to describe it, where you buy into it. There's weird allocation money rules. There's just weirdness that goes on in that league. But the emphasis in our country is that's the top thing. Mm-hmm. And then that top thing then has to have a second thing, which is our our next step down, which is basically their reserve league, and then a chance for people that are up and coming to go through to that pro division, but no pro rel, as we know. And then beyond that, it's like, do whatever you want. So to me, it seems like there's just this lack of structure and regulation that is like a cesspool breeding ground for this kind of stuff. And it kind of has to stop, because we're just basically allowing what's good about soccer in the United States, where you have tons of kids playing it. There's an organized structure for kids to grow up in the game. And then you get past high school and the DA maybe will throw them in the mix too. And then it's kind of just like now what? And that it's and then these type of things happen. And to me, it's a wonder why the UPSL is backing the team. And an owner who has basically been removed from every league they've played in over the past 4 years. But I mean, that's their call to do their thing, or to not do something about it. I just feel that without a hard look at the amateur game in the country, and how to support those that are legitimate, and do things the right way, we're only going to see weird shit like this keep happening. And it probably is all happening elsewhere. Just this happens to be our use case in our little small ecosystem.
Oh, you know it. U.S. soccer, John. This is just another piece of evidence that has been growing since at least our experience, and since we've heard of the experience of other teams in the U.S. Open Cup. Like, U.S. soccer just doesn't have the capacity, it doesn't have the will, it doesn't have the interest to pay attention to lower league organizations until those organizations have the potential to bump up against the PDL and above. I mean, think about the difference in what it takes for a team to host a U.S. Open Cup in the qualifiers versus what it takes for a team to host a U.S. Open Cup game once you're in the true knockout rounds, right? Like, I think they told us something like all you need really is a field and a bathroom facility or something.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, you don't need locker room. Meanwhile, the NPSL has more stringent requirements for what it takes to host a game. Like, the U.S. soccer has no interest in until maybe you have to play the Des Moines Menace, or maybe you have to play FC Cincinnati, or maybe you have to play someone with a little bigger name recognition. They don't have any interest in leveling the playing field there at all. It's just like you said. Once you're below a certain point, we'll just let the animals eat each other until someone rises up, right? And when you have people, and that sucks. That sucks for U.S. soccer. That I can't believe they're so short-sighted, because when you have people saying all the time on online and locally, you have people saying support local soccer, support local, but then you end up, unfortunately, with a team like this as your local team. Like, that sucks. That's it for you. You just lost a city of fans.
Right, exactly. And I think my only way to kind of wrap this all up is, I've said it time and time again, within our level of soccer, no matter where you are in the country, if you don't have a unique perspective and you're not authentic, and you don't own who you are, you will be found out. And you are part of the problem. And that's exactly what we saw here.
Yes.
And it just helps further justify why I keep saying that.
I think more and more, as we're getting into, as more teams are popping up, as we're learning about more new teams to all these leagues all over the country, you see this trend of teams like us who are grassroots teams. But the problem is, with grassroots teams, you also see a lot of AstroTurf teams trying to emulate that success. You know what I mean? And it's hard to tell the difference at first glance until you really start to dig down and see that, like, oh, this is just a super rich investor that decided to plop down in a city in America and try to make a couple bucks. Like, you know what I mean? Or this is just a kid, or this is just a guy who's trying to make a name for himself back home, or trying to make a name for himself locally, and creating a whole soccer universe that doesn't exist, like outside of on like a bunch of Post-it notes on his apartment wall.
Right. Yeah. Looks like a scrum board.
So, So I definitely caution people as we start to try to support other teams and we find ourselves like trying to support like-minded teams, really do a little research and really do some take a second look at what teams really are like-minded and what teams deserve your support, and make your choice, after you've done some due diligence.
I mean, look at how, like our division for a good example.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I know for a fact that we all do things differently. And I'm sure that there's, different ways to slice the apple here, where, someone in St. Paul might be doing something different than us, but we're all legitimate trying to make it work. And it's just so baffling that we all can get lumped into, by one way or another, to something that's so fake.
Yeah.
Like what? Like why? Like I got to a point this week where communication was coming in, and like I'm talking to Dan, like, you'll never believe what I heard here, and get a load of this kind of thing after this all kind of unfolded, and it was just like at what point do I just stop paying attention to it, because it's just so I'm done with it. And like you said, I also encourage people that when you're looking for a team to align yourself with, it could be, geographical, or it could be just ideological. It could be whatever. You could just like a player that plays on the team. But, that doing your research on things is very, very important, because at the end of the day, like, regardless of whether what this guy is doing is legit or not, I think we all have an idea after that article whether it is or not. But like, if you're gonna put your own money into something,
mm-hmm.
like even if it's like $8 for a game ticket, it's your $8 that you're putting into that is going to something that is completely a sleight of hand or smoke and mirrors. And you got
wasn't he like, for instance, wasn't FC Minneapolis selling season tickets at the NSC at the Sports Center in Blaine, and he had no agreement with them whatsoever to play there?
Yes. So again, it's the be a fan of whoever you want and whatever type of organization that you want to, but like do just a little bit of homework. Like, yeah, if you're gonna sink any of your own money into something, like, please align yourself with a good group that loves to give back, Nate.
That's right. Speaking of that, that's us. That's going to be all for this week's show.
Great segue.
Thanks, as always, to our sponsor, Summit Brewing. The ever so popular My Bock is out. I just drank one. It's a delicious blonde bock, proudly brewed in St. Paul, Minnesota. If you want a little smooth taste with some punch on the ABV levels, then this is the answer. It's in stores. It's on tap. Go get some. Did you know, I'm so excited, Minneapolis City's first game of the year is almost upon us. You must join us as we welcome the Nebraska Bug Eaters into town on Saturday, April 21st. The game is at the Parade Ground, which is over by the Blake School, over by Dunwoody, and the Walker Sculpture Garden. It's at 7 p.m. on Saturday, April 21st. Tickets are available online now at mplscitysc.com for just $8. Or, hear me out, you can buy a membership and make it the first game of many that you can see for only $65. You get a cool season pass to all upcoming city matches this summer, including friendlies, NPSL games, U23 games. You get a fancy new membership scarf, and of course you get a vote so you can have a say in the direction of local soccer. Do you like helping people? We do. You may have heard it. But helping people sometimes comes with a cost, and we would like your support. So if you're looking to align yourself with a fine group that loves to give back, Minneapolis City is a 501c3 that does good on and off the pitch by providing those less fortunate with a safe, reliable place to play the beautiful game. Think about donating today. If you want to get a hold of us, we have made it easy. Bryn knows how to do it. Send a note on Twitter at The People's Pitch or through email at mcscpodcast@gmail.com. John checks that email at least once a month. All questions, comments, and concerns are welcome. And finally, as always, you can hit the club up at MPLS City SC on Twitter. That is all for this week. We once again will leave you with our house MC, the newest resident of Sweden, Miles Stockman-Willis, a.k.a. Malaise. I am Nate. That is John. Thank you for being the people. Thank you for being our people. We'll see you next week.
We're playing Uganda. You got hooked.
Poster burning maple weeds, cradle major keys. Thinking back, I've been major since the minor league. So supreme, too much sauce off my olive NMDs. I could staple steez, bend the goat so I get the cheese. Never fall, rake them leaves and make sure every moment gets seized. And everything I see is make believe. Cuff a bad bitch, make her wipe off Maybelline. She wanna F with me, maybe get close data G. Run up data plans, getting A to B like AT&T. Hate me when she's coming, it's the perfect time for me to leave. Patience thin as crepe, so I'm craving her creatively. Make her breakfast in bed, then have sex instead. One life, live it up. 175 Grey Goose, treat it like a sippy cup. 105 on the dash, watch me giddy up. Only one on the bench, still press the city up. No stress from the press, it ain't news, I'm getting paper. Ask for the check, first time I see the waiter. Make my own luck, knocking over salt shakers. Every September 4th, should've put in more labor. Yes, flex, get out my lane, we ain't the same. Don't play Red Rover with the train. Lingo rolling off my tongue like a slogan spoken slang. Surely spitting like this token wrote and spoke it in some fangs. I could hang a vampire, highly inspired. Haven't reached this height before, I might get higher. Crew conspires round the campfire, rolling till our hands tired. Rap MacGyver saying sapphire, satire. With the swag, attire you admire. So well put together, no assembly required. Newly hired, still this heat so fire that it gets them fired. Fuck boys thinking that they fresh but expired. Everybody's flawed, that's just life's law. Wonder what life will be like when the ice stop. I'll die any day, cause I'm down for the cost. Do it bigger than the Big Bang, like my name was Rush. Burning bridges with no guts. Tell her open up her jaws and feed her nothing but bare claws. All about my dough, so she want a nut duck. Keep my ducks on the row, on the pond like what? Getting flocks at each show, giving out goosebumps. Playing with her heart, claim she playing spades. Whenever we apart, her brain ain't the same. Tickle her pussy as I tickle her ear hair. More boss than Ross, never been to a career fair. Blood, sweat, tears dripping off my upper lip. On some shit, krillin', chillin', gripping on destructo discs. Go left, go right in life, maybe eat a Twix. Rapping like a silly rabbit, tripping in the tricks. On the come up. Yeah, boy, this the come up. Whole squad about to motherfucking come up.